All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our town hall. Tonight, we have a focused topic, and that is our downtown lane reduction and beautification project. And so planning and design for the lane reduction is underway. A little bit of a background before Chris Scioni, our Public Services Director, kicks us off. Just wanted to give that background to start off with. On May 19th of this year, our council approved the downtown Monorail Road traffic calming and beautification project. And so they've directed our team to design this project that will improve accessibility, increasing safety, as well as additional place for community members and businesses. Tonight, what we want to focus on is looking at the lane reduction plan from an engineering perspective. So we want to look at the improvements to our roadway system to support traffic outside of our downtown area. And so tonight we're going to share information about the timing of related construction projects that could impact the implementation of the lane reduction, as well as next steps on the project. So without further ado, I want to turn it over to Chris Scioni, our Public Services Director.
Thanks, Christina. Appreciate the introduction. It's great to see everyone who's on the Zoom tonight. Looks like we have a handful of people, but I recognize almost every name on there. So good to see all of you. Joining me tonight is Edith Ramirez, our Assistant City Manager for Community Development, who you've heard from on the past meetings. It relates to beautification, parking, and everything else that's going on with this project. Also joining us tonight is Scott Creer, our city engineer, that will be helping to answer questions. And as Christina said, we are moving forward from the past discussions we had at the previous town hall on the beautification component and many of the other elements to the specific plan of the lane reduction in the downtown and what traffic mitigations will occur outside the downtown, as well as the other things Christina talked about. With that, I will pull up my presentation, and I think I'm going to pull it up. Whoops. Hang on one second. Okay, got it. All right, so as we get started for tonight, the question we've asked through this project is, what is our vision for the downtown? And what is your vision for the downtown? It'd be great to hear it tonight as you bring up questions and make comments at the end of the presentation. And we've used a lot of different things to design our downtown, including our station area master plan, which this diagram shows, how we would manage different uses within the roadway. And you can see parking, bicycling, and the travel lane. And that's what we're going to be talking about a little bit later. But the project goals for the lane reduction project is the lane reduction portion of the project is really to design a project that improves accessibility and increases safety and creates additional space for community members and businesses. Associated with this, and we talked about this at the previous town hall, is a place branding program that Edith talked about that creates the initial plan for some city-funded efforts, as well as some efforts that could be used by the private sector to improve the place branding in downtown, and these pieces go together. But we're going to be focusing on the first of these two tonight. So the lane reduction program and the beautification program guiding principles include protecting our pedestrians and cyclists, creating community space, supporting business recovery, supporting emergency response. That's important as we talk about the design that we've put together. We want to try to minimize traffic congestion and create an opportunity for diversity, equity, and inclusivity within our downtown, including, in the parklet spaces. Closes gaps in the fabric. We're activating parklet and retains parking spaces as much as possible when feasible. So here's the schedule we've been working off of. As Christina mentioned, on May 19th, the council gave us direction to move forward. We've been working on these designs through the summer, working with our working group of residents, businesses, and community members. And now we've begun engaging the community. This will be the second town hall we've had. We've been working with the working group. And then starting tomorrow, we'll have a pop-up display at the pop-up park in downtown on the project. Ultimately, this will result in the proposed design for the lane reduction project and the plan going to council in December of this year. So as we talk about the engineering component and this piece, we know traffic is one of the biggest concerns of the residents that, you know, whether they like this idea or don't like this idea, frankly, traffic is a big concern for many, many people. But when we talk about traffic, we always try and balance it with the guiding principles of Morgan Hill's Vision Zero plan. And that means that moving through roadways as efficiently as possible isn't the priority. The priority is preventing traffic deaths and injuries, and integrating the Vision Zero principles into the planning that we do for small scale improvements as well as larger scale planning and improvements like the lane reduction project. Now, as we look back, we talk about the purpose of Monorail Road. And Monorail Road, as everyone knows, used to be the freeway. It connected San Jose to Monterey, hence the name. And Monorail Road was relinquished to the city many, many years ago. And the city constructed Butterfield Boulevard to build a bypass for the downtown outside of Monterey. That was the purpose of Butterfield Boulevard. So what is the purpose of Monorail Road through the downtown? That's the big question we continue to ask. It is used as an arterial street, but moving traffic is not the sole purpose. And this discussion is focused on, is it the priority of what Monorail Road through the downtown is? So Complete Streets programs are being implemented across the country, right? So you see them all over the place, and they're done to improve safety, reduce noise and air pollution, create a livable environment in the downtown, accommodate bicyclists, and create community gathering places, and help people, not just people in cars, get through the area. So the lane reduction program is not something new. It's something that's been proven successful in communities across the country. It's supported and it's documented by the Federal Highways Administration that it's something that communities should consider in high-ped traffic areas like the downtown. The lane reduction program is not just a bike lane. It's space for people. The bike lane uses that space, but it's moving traffic away from residents and businesses. And to use that space, a bike lane, it goes there, but that is not the sole purpose of this project, and we want to make that clear. And the last part of the lane reduction program component, last big component I want to mention is encouraging traffic to utilize alternate routes. So drive to the downtown, not through it. That's really what this is about. Now, as we jump into traffic in Morgan Hill, we have to kind of look at it from a big picture perspective. And this graphic on the left really shows what it looks like from the PM commute. Morgan Hill is at the center of the hourglass for South County traffic. And there's a couple of reasons for that. It's really based on the 101 not being able to completely handle the impact of what's happening. And we all know, or most of us know, that have driven that commute, know that, as 101 comes into Morgan Hill, it goes from 4 lanes down to 3 lanes, and there's a big backup to the north. And people use Monorail Road and Hale Avenue as ways to get into Morgan Hill and to get through Morgan Hill. And we have those 3 areas coming in. And then you see at the bottom of the screen, we note housing on the graphic. We have communities of Los Banos, Hollister, Salinas, Monterey, where people are commuting to Morgan Hill, to San Jose through Morgan Hill. And you can see as those that traffic comes through town, it disperses into all sorts of different directions, crossing where as you come southbound, there's really only routes on the west side of town, but then you cross over to the east, especially if you're going to Los Banos and trying to beat traffic backing up in Gilroy. So what it creates is cut through traffic through our town, and we know about 1/3 of the traffic in the PM time and during the peak times, both morning and afternoon, about 1/3 of it going through Morgan Hill is not using 101. They're using alternate routes, which means our city streets, which is tough. And this is just a graphic that shows, this is what you pull it from Google Maps, and it shows you what's happening in traffic in the morning or the afternoon. And you can see that, the 101 backs up and it creates traffic in different areas within the city. Now, the issue with that is that problem on 101 is really a problem that's regional in nature and not something that Morgan Hill can mitigate. We need to advocate and work with our regional partners to figure out this issue and get the 101 freeway expanded so that problem is mitigated. But it's not something we can do in the city, nor something we would want to do in the city to encourage fast travel through Morgan Hill for those that are coming from out of town. Hale Avenue is the first major project to support traffic relief that we've done in many years. However, that project is not just about traffic relief, it's about traffic safety and getting people onto a roadway that's safer for them to drive on versus our neighborhoods. And in the past, the city has prioritized other projects over traffic management. And a lot of that has to do is the limited resources we have to try and deal with a regional issue that's impacting us. So it's something that's tough. Right now, most of the signals in the city are programmed independently, and we have a good signals management program where each signal runs as efficiently as possible, but they aren't integrated. And then traffic in Morgan Hill, we know, is a frustration. I mentioned the 1/3 of regional traffic flowing through the city, and we know traffic volumes were going down with the construction of Butterfield Boulevard, but they've gone up more recently. We also do know that Butterfield Boulevard is a very viable alternative to Monorail Road. So now we're going to jump into the mitigations on traffic. So with the routes coming north or south through the city of Morgan Hill, whether you're going you're coming from the north and you're going to use Butterfield instead of Monorail, and whether you're going to jump back on at Dunn or go all the way down to say Watsonville Road, it's only a 0.7 mile difference in distance, right? So 0.7 miles when you're driving, probably not that big of a deal, except when there's congestion. We understand that travel distance does not equal travel time. We do believe Butterfield currently moves pretty efficiently and is a very viable alternative in its current state. However, what we are actually proposing ahead of any lane reduction downtown is to further improve Butterfield Boulevard so it can afford, we know it can support the traffic, but it can even more efficiently move the traffic through the Butterfield corridor. So what I'm going to show on the screen is the plan for improving Butterfield Boulevard ahead of the lane reduction. And this would include upgrades to 13 traffic signals along the corridor. That includes the Cochrane Monterey Road signal and the next signal on Cochrane Road before you even get to Butterfield. So what this would do is integrate these 13 signals so that the entire corridor would be synchronized for traffic moving through, moving to Butterfield Boulevard off of Monterey and Cochrane, through Butterfield Boulevard all the way back to Monorail Road in the south. And what this will do is it'll increase the efficiency of traffic flow, which can allow more traffic, but also will encourage more residents to use this route because it will be faster than going through Monorail Road. and this would be planned ahead of moving forward with the lane reduction program. This would include the improvements to the 13 signals. However, it would also improve intersections at a couple of locations, and we would reconfigure how the signal works at Cochrane and Monorail to really promote that left-hand turn onto Cochrane from Monorail coming south, and then improve the intersection at Butterfield and Cochrane so people can flow into that right-hand turn, and it's a much faster approach. We estimate all these improvements at a little bit over $100,000. In addition to the improvements, what we would do even before the lane reduction happens is begin a communication campaign to really promote the use of Butterfield and driving, using that alternative to not drive through the downtown. We would use the informational message boards on the in the immediate implementation for several months afterwards at different locations to encourage and remind those residents and visitors that are coming through that this is a viable alternative that's been improved and is more efficient. And we would increase our signage through the Butterfield or through Monorail Road to encourage people to head towards the Butterfield corridor. We know there's also traffic on the west side, and we know that the Hale Avenue extension is not going to be done until 2023. And we know that that extension will alleviate traffic through the downtown. But until that's done, the most important project for reducing impacts on Monorail Road is the Butterfield option. And hang on one second. I'm going to put my AirPods in because I'm hearing a little bit of noise in the background. And so Wright Avenue was the most impacted street on the west side during the pilot project in 2015, and the city would improve or has improved Wright Avenue, adding and improves a crosswalk at Del Monte, and also including a restriping of that roadway to improve safer use of Wright. It's not more efficient, it's just safety improvements. And we are proposing minor intersection improvements at the Main Avenue intersection that will promote the east-west traffic that is moving through Main and Monorail Road. And then we would work with our police department to ensure that monitoring enforcement of those not following the rules of the road occurs on the west side. And these are those key locations of those improvements. So long-term mitigations above the Butterfield improvements and the improvements I just mentioned for the west side, within 3 years, we will have the Hale Avenue extension completed. We will be completing a transportation master plan, which includes a traffic signal optimization study for the entire city. And then following those improvements, 3+ years, we would be looking to integrate that traffic signal optimization for the remaining areas of the city, which will include that signalization on the Hale Avenue corridor once that the Hale Avenue extension is done. And then the second phase of the Hale Avenue extension is also something we'd be continuing to work on, which would connect DeWitt to Sunnyside. And obviously there's going to be ongoing mitigation work that needs to be done, and that's the Highway 101 widening that we need to keep working towards, and continuing to work on our public transportation improvements through Morgan Hill, not just to Morgan Hill, so it reduces the number of cars that are coming through, because although we are really promoting the widening of 101 or advocating for it, we know that we can't continue to build our way out of traffic. Now let's talk about some of the projects that are going to be impacting the downtown in the near term and could impact the lane reduction project. So if you look on the screen now, you see we have the Valley Water Flood Control Project in the orange areas, which is the intersection of Main and Hale Avenue. In the next week or so, you're going to see some road work in that area. The intersection will remain open, but they'll be doing undergrounding of utilities. And then down the road, there'll be even more construction in that area that can impact that intersection. That project will also, down the road, impact Del Monte Avenue and that intersection at Dunn Avenue. And that project will continue on for the next 3 years or so. The Depot Street realignment, which you see in red, that's the realignment of Depot Street through the Community and Cultural Center parking lot. That project looks like it's moving forward beginning early next year. That's not 100% confirmed yet, but that looks like the timing we'll have. So that project will be underway and under construction for the next year, with the priority to complete that roadway realignment. We have a sewer project that's happening on 5th Street, and that is going to be under construction in the next at the end of this month, and will probably be completed in 3 months or so if all goes as well. So it'd be done pretty quickly. And then the yellow dots represent development project sites where we'll see impacts. They may have impacts from the number of residents down the road and other things that are happening, but for the short term, their impacts on roadway and traffic congestion are not going to be as big, because they are pretty much on-site infill projects that aren't impacting the public right-of-way too much. All right, so let's talk about the lane reduction plan that we're going to be putting forward. It's based on our 2015 pilot with some improvements. It's designed to calm traffic, support bike and ped safety, and we're really trying to focus with the design this time is consistency to minimize driver confusion. There will be flexibility on each block to use the space for parklets or for parking. And there will be access to the bike lane for public safety, so that public safety, primarily the fire department, can get as close to the buildings as they can now. And it would also still allow traffic to move out of the way into that lane if public safety needs to get through the downtown. This is a section of the plans that would provide an example of what the plan is, as well as some renderings of what it looks like. And we would have a 5.5 foot wide bike lane with a 4.5 foot wide buffer lane between the traffic lane and the travel lane where the traffic is and the bike lane. The buffer would be enhanced next to any parklets and the ends of intersections to include the rubber safety humps, which would discourage people from driving into the bike lane. And you can see a little example of that there. And you can see that those safety humps would be aligned with the striping in the buffer of the bike lane. We would improve the intersections at Monorail and Main Avenue, and would include more bicycle striping and to help the bicycles get through both of those intersections, and then some traffic improvements on Main Avenue coming into Monorail on the westbound traffic lanes would be included as well. One thing that we are considering as a change from the previous plan, the 2015 pilot used a buffer that ended before the intersections. As you can see, the areas that I've indicated in red, there's no longer a buffer there, and what that allowed is traffic to pull legally over to the right side to make the right turn lanes. We're considering extending that buffer to the intersections, and that would eliminate that shared use and create greater safety and consistency. The next piece that we're really working on, that we've made progress on and are going to continue to work on, is integrating the lane reduction plan with the beautification concepts for a presentation to the council in December. And with that, I would be happy to take on any questions, comments, or thoughts. So I was not able to view the chat while I was talking, so I will take a quick look at that if we have anything in the Q&A. Does not look like we do. So I think if you'd like to ask a question or make a comment, you can raise your hand and we'll call on you. So I don't see anyone with their hands raised yet. All right, I think we have Joe Bernowski. Kim, do you want to let him over or do you want me to try and do it?
Hi, just let him over.
Okay.
Good
Hey,
evening,
Joe.
Chris. How you doing? And community members. Yeah, so I have a couple comments and some questions. I noticed a slide on the website, the city's website, on this kind of that goes along with this presentation. You know, it talks about possible traffic solutions. And you mentioned several times just now that we believe Butterfield is a viable alternative. So I'm wondering, you know, what is that belief based on? And what solutions are you actually solving for? You don't say anywhere. And so specifically, you know, the last time that this was tried and aborted was in 2015, and about 6 months later, I believe was the last time as part of the 2035 EIR that a citywide measurement program was done to get the existing conditions on segments all across the city. So I'm wondering, is your belief, how many vehicles do you think will be, in your best efforts, will be detoured onto Butterfield? And what will those, along with Evergreen Village, Applied Motion, Carpenters Training, Silicon Valley Glass, the Village at Madrone, TechCon, Solora Ranch, Monterey Parquet, Morgan Hill Apartments, Shoe Palace, Trammell Crow at Butterfield, Valencia, Brighton Oaks, the Magnolias, Carpenters Training, Manzita Park, all those projects, which add tens of thousands of daily trips. What do you see as the capacity? What, you know, is it just a wild guess that this is viable? You know, what do you see if you're successful in getting cars onto Butterfield? And you know, those assumptions in 2035, you keep referring to widening of 101, but there were many other assumptions that are still just on paper, like the extension of Butterfield to Monterey Madrone, the widening of Monterey Road. None of those are happening. So it's great that you believe Butterfield is viable, but this is going to possibly impact thousands of people. So if you could just explain, what is your belief based on? And when you say possible traffic solutions, what are you trying to solve? Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate the question. So I think one of the things that we have to realize, and I'll ask Scott if he has any comments on this as well, is, you know, as cities grow and we have traffic coming through the city, we're always going to have more growth. And there's going to be a choice if we want to use, you know, our downtown as a way to allow traffic to go through. We have, you know, every one of those, not everyone, many of those developments, we look at the traffic studies that go along with it. And yes, they bring more traffic, but each one of the things you mentioned isn't going to impact Butterfield. Some of them will, some of them won't, some of them will impact different sections of the roadway. And so, yeah, there's going to be more traffic, and traffic's going to continue to be, you know, there's going to be greater congestion. What we're solving for is, right now at this time, we know the traffic flows on Butterfield. We know there's more room that can go there. We know that, you know, thousands of people moved from using Monterey Road to Butterfield Boulevard during the pilot, and we think if we improve the efficiency, that they will again be able to move from Monterey Road, using Monterey Road, to Butterfield. And I mean, it happened before. It can happen again if we promote it. We will be doing traffic counts again in the future. And we, as I mentioned, with the transportation master plan that's coming up, and the signal optimization study that we'll be doing over the next year, we'll be collecting those things. But solving for right now is what we're looking for solving for the downtown. So that's really the answer we're looking for is, yeah, we're not solving for those things because those are going to be solved regionally. They're going to be solved independently, and we're going to be looking at that holistically, as we had with the last general plan update and the last update to the circulation element, which we'll be updating again. But what we're trying to solve for is, how do we get traffic out of the downtown, and how do we improve the efficiency of that traffic outside of the downtown, so people are encouraged to use it. And that's what we are trying to solve for. Scott, did you have any thoughts on that as well?
I think the only thing I'd add is the fact that we have a circulation element that's done based on the general plan build out. So it looks at traffic volumes based on land uses and how they'll develop out and the trips we'll see from those properties. So that takes into account all the projects that Joe mentioned. We also know based on volumes right now that Butterfield is an underutilized arterial street that runs north and south in the city, and is a much, I'm going to call it friction-free, much less friction on that roadway, because there isn't access, either driveways or multiple streets along that section road, like Monorail Road is, where we've got businesses, we've got a lot of movement, turning movements and whatnot, back and forth with vehicles and a lot of pedestrian activity. So that's kind of, I don't know if that helps answer some of the questions or not, but ultimately the roadway system, when it is built out, is designed to accommodate the built out Morgan Hill and the traffic associated that'll come with it. It's not designed, but again, I should add, our circulation element did not take into account the spillover from 101 that is occurring. And we weren't going to put the burden on new development to build our roadways to accommodate the spillover from freeway traffic. And that was a conscious decision that was made by the city.
And to add to that, legally, we can't make new development pay for uses they're not causing. Are there any other questions? All right, if there's no more questions, I want to just pull up one more slide, and if anyone has questions while we're waiting, to talk about kind of the next steps. So we've completed our working group meetings. We held 4 of those. And then community-wide engagement. This is our last town hall meeting ahead of the council recommendation, which will be coming out on December 10th for the council meeting on the 15th. We will have an open house in the pop-up park, and with lots of information on our website as well, beginning tomorrow to discuss the program, the lane reduction and the beautification components of the program. And that's our schedule for this project. Our website has lots of ways you can review details of what we have going on, as well as provide feedback. And with that, I'd ask if any of my teammates, Edith or Christina or Scott, or see Matt has joined us as well, have any comments before we conclude.
Nothing further from me.
Now, just that the pop-up park, we should have the displays ready by tomorrow at noon. So swing by the pop-up park, say hello, we'll be there. And it will not only share the information that we share with you today, but also take you to the website so you can provide additional feedback on the various elements of the project.
I'll only add on the pop-up park elements, and on the website, the feedback mechanism will be live about noon tomorrow.
Nothing from me.
All right. All right, thanks.
Chris, there is a question in the Q&A. Can you remind us of the pop-up location?
Yeah, it's the pop-up park downtown at the corner of Monorail and 2nd Street.
Yeah, and we'll be, the team is, Hillary has been leading with a lot of these efforts. She's going to be setting it up with our help. We'll be there helping her display it, come by, say hello. And I would assume that sometime in the morning between 10 and noon, you'll be ready, and hopefully you'll catch us there. If not, feel free to reach out to any of us.
All right, thanks, Edith, and thanks everybody for joining us tonight. We'll see you in the coming weeks at the pop-up park.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.